Many thanks for being there. Let's talk about Nigeria's economic crisis. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has criticized the federal government over worsening living conditions, saying many Nigerians are struggling to afford basic household assets. Atiku cited findings from the Central Bank of Nigeria's Household Expectation Survey, which showed weak demand for vehicles, consumer goods, buildings and landed property. The survey recorded low buying conditions for motor vehicles, consumer durables and property, while willingness to make such purchases was even weaker. Atiku said the figures reflected decline in purchasing power and growing economic pressure on households. He argued that the situation showed the economic crisis had moved beyond rising food prices, increasingly limiting Nigerians' ability to acquire assets and improve their standard of living. And to help make sense of this, we're joined by an economist, Femi Onakanren. Mr. Onakanren, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So I recall you previously commended some of the government's reforms in an earlier conversation that we had on the news. But with a former vice president now accusing the administration of worsening Nigerians' purchasing power, has your assessment changed?
Okay, so to really shed light on this, I think it's important that we have a history of the household, expectation survey. It was instituted in 2008, and around that period was when it had, the highest favorability index, compared with what people are expecting. Down the line, we started having issues around, 2014, 2016. And what was the issue? Some people tried to politicize it, but what happened that we had a change of administration, and crude oil prices fell from about $100, which it was largely during the Jonathan years, to less than $40. Now, because Nigeria's mainstay in terms of revenue comes from crude oil sales, that sharp decline, right? Two-third decline in terms of revenue affected the country's ability to push forward. And, subsequently, we fell into a recession in that particular period. That particular shock created a situation that the federal government had to manage expectations. Our foreign reserve, went down. Indebtedness by the administration also, increased just to meet up obligations. We also had some key policy issues that were driving, increased demand on the limited dollar. Like we had our pegged position for Naira, and then we also had, crude oil subsidy, petrol subsidy, and all manner of subsidies, power subsidy across different areas. So it meant that the country was essentially exposed and on the road to bankruptcy. Now, these are the facts, right? And this is the progression that's of the household index. By 2023, when this particular administration took over, the things were not, they were a bit more stable, but they were not, going in the right way. Some of those issues had not been resolved. And they brought in and very much needed economic reforms, the platform of which that all the other candidates actually campaigned, which is that they'll, harmonize the FX rates, remove subsidy, create initiatives to that end. And we can see from the data that actually the economy has picked up. They inherited a growth rate, GDP growth rate of about 2.74, right? And it has moved on this year, projected at 4.4% and above. So you can see a gradual increase from 2023 to 2026. And, and these are things that you can verify, World Bank data and NBS data as well. So things have improved. The macroeconomics have improved. We have shored up our foreign reserves. We have about 52.5 billion or upwards in our reserve, which has given our FX stability. So I'm trying to build a picture so that we can get to this.
So we don't really have the luxury of time. But then sorry that I had to cut in. My question actually with this analysis is you have attributed this to external shocks, domestic problems, challenges, a few lapses in policies in the previous administration compared to what we have now. But the question is, while we see improvements in the macroeconomic dynamics, Why is it that it's not translating into better living standard for Nigerians in terms of expenditure, in terms of expenses? Okay, yes, that's expenditure. And in terms of, the ability to purchase basic things, basically.
So the thing about economic policies is that it's not a plug-and-play situation. It takes time for maturity, it takes consistency, and it takes keeping an eye on the ball. While not denying that several Nigerians are going through a very tough economic, period now, the outlook also from that same particular report that was given, the outlook is also quite positive and encouraging for most Nigerians. Respondents have a higher favorability disposition to what the administration is doing and how things are going. So the trickle-down effect is not automatic. It takes a while. It's just like saying that because you've gone to the ER, once you come out, you should automatically be healed. That's for the churches and the miracle centers. But in all sincerity, it takes a while. Recovery takes a while. So and some of these things we've been battered over a long period, such that the entire economy was exposed. We're just patching it together, right? And this is not a defense of the administration, just a review of the critical data of the economy and how it is going, how it's affecting us. Now, to your point, what should be done, I believe, is that rather than pushing political narratives, is to look at critically how we're going to address those trickle downs and hold government accountable, as well as those who want to be, the new administration, also hold them accountable. Okay, what are your plans for this thing? So what are the things that take people's money? There's food, there's rent, there's transportation, there's utilities. What are your plans around it? What roadmap do you have in doing some of these things? The current administration have given us some stuff: NEL fund for education, agri support, loan, access to credit that they're trying to build through the BOA. I mean, a lot of things are going on. Now, anyone that's coming right should be talking about building on the foundations laid, looking at the indices and saying, okay, this is how we're going to do, better. Things are challenging. The situation is quite challenging now. But in all sincerity, even respondents, according to the survey, have a positive outlook as to the status of the economy.
Okay, so Femi, just 2 questions. I'll just tie them in between. Just as you said, the presidency has pointed out that GDP, foreign reserves are improving. The numbers look very encouraging. But beyond these, headline indicators, number one, are you confirming that right now Nigerians are not really benefiting from the policies of government? Then 2, how long does it take? How long should Nigerians wait before they begin to reap the benefits? Because it doesn't look as though people within the political class are going through the same problem.
Okay, so your first question is, are we saying that the Nigerians are not feeling the policy? That would be a very false position. I can give you one very quick one, right? FX stabilization. Now, we had suffered from multiple FX positions, right? And this created a lot of pressure on our foreign reserves, and it really encumbered the economy and prevented us from actually growing, having a stable position. The reforms in that sector, right, in that area, has actually stabilized, and we have had more positive outlook in terms of credit inflow, investment inflow, right, and also growth of the stability of the naira. So it means that the naira can perform well. That it is stable. Investors have confidence in putting in the economy. Now, to the second part of your question regarding how long it will take, I will refer again to my analogy of surgery. A doctor can give you an estimation of how long it will take. So we can say that this whole thing, with consistent application, consistent policy implementation, tweaking the system where it may be needed for improvement, this is something that we would need like 5 to 10 years as a growth plan, as a stabilization and growth plan, right? It's like you want to build railways, for example. You're not going to manufacture railways overnight. Transportation being one of the issues that we have to resolve. You want to improve food production. It's not going to be done overnight. It's going to take a period. So is that position, we wouldn't want to say definitively, but within 5 to 10 years, we should start seeing the same thing. If there is consistent application and iterative improvement on policies. If there are lapses, you blog it and all. That is when it will translate. But a change of power or a continuance of power without that diligent application and the rigor of making sure that the policies continue to tick along and work is a disservice to the Nigerian people.
Well, thank you so much, Femi. I'm just wondering how the ordinary Nigerian would be taking and soaking all this in, because at the end of the day, they're still not able to purchase food affordably. Rent hikes are there. I mean, we've seen transportation prices. Those things are there. I mean, so
inflation has been going down progressively. Headline inflation has been going down progressively since 2023.
All right, no problem.
What we need to avoid as a people, sorry, in closing, is we should not celebrate the bad news, right? And then when we have some improvement, we find it difficult to celebrate. We are not politicians. We are the Nigerians. We are the people. So we need to keep the politics out of it and look at the actual figures and how things are progressing. Narratives can damage a lot of things, right? And we are all supposed to be pulling together for a better country.
Yeah, definitely. There's actually no politics in this. I mean, it's just reality. I know how much I spend in purchasing food for a month a couple of years back, and I know how much I spend today. But this is going to be a conversation that we are just going to, peg here. And probably in our subsequent engagements, we get to look more into this.
I'll be glad. I'll be glad to provide my insights.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right. You're welcome.